Actually. All right, we're on. Hey, everyone. We have a little over 20 participants right now, and this is the Adobe Experience Manager Champion Office Hours post-summit. We wanted to get anyone available who attended the 2024 Adobe Summit to talk about their experiences and what they learned in their sessions, and also have a couple of of our AEM champs discuss what they learned during the sessions and provide kind of like an overall picture of what's the overall AEM landscape post-summit. So without further ado, we'll get started. Thank you for joining us all. Obviously, we are the Champion Office Hours chapter of Adobe Experience Manager Champions. And, we do these weekly meetings. The AM Champion Office Hours, I'm sorry, I said weekly, I mean monthly, sometimes twice a month if we have a lot of material to discuss. But yeah, we'll cover what the Champion Office Hours is. We will provide brief champion introductions, which for this session is not really important because we're a good mix of like participants and champions it's a roundtable discussion. So we're not really having any feature panelists. As far as pre-submitted questions, we had a form out there that folks could, reply to us and let us know how the summit went. I didn't get any responses, which means probably that, there's a lot of information, but also like it might be too close to summit to provide any feedback on sessions you attended. But I think it's fine. We're gonna cover everything during our roundtable discussion of what sessions we attended and what kind of impressions we had. We can definitely answer any live questions related to Summit and we can exchange our opinions about that and then wrap it up, give you some information about how to join our AM Champion Office Hours chapter and how to see future events happening. And so you can join the chapter and see what's coming up down the road, as well as seeing our YouTube playlist to review this session and previous sessions as well. So again, we do these monthly, and the AM Champions Office Hours are related to Adobe Experience Manager, both for on-premise managed services and AEM as a cloud service products and implementations. You can participate as an AEM practitioner, developer, architect, and you can reply to our pre-submit questions forms and attend live and hear from our panel. And so if you wanted to do that, you can subscribe to our Office Hours chapter to be notified when a new event is scheduled. As I mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of different panelists here. Just a quick note to mention that that's a roundtable discussion. So feel free to participate anytime. Raise your hand or participate in the chat if you have any questions. And so we'll go to the next. We have obviously folks who are going to talk about there. Some of us attended in person, some of us attended like virtually. So we can participate in the discussion as needed. And as I mentioned earlier, if you were to scan the codes here, the QR codes that you see, the left QR code is to join our Champion Office Hours website and chapter. And to the right, the QR code would take you to the YouTube channel so you can view on demand previous sessions, or, if you miss any of our future sessions, you can go back and review those at your leisure, basically. All right. We'll go back to our chat window here. I'm going to turn my camera as well so you can see me. Hello. I'll start by saying, I guess I'll provide my kind of view of like Summit, and what I took away from it is this was my second in-person Summit, by the way. And the one thing that I came away with was the explosion of edge delivery services from when we first saw it as a Helix project and Franklin and like document-based processing of AEM information of content. Now it's like it's going into universal editor, so like you can work with edge delivery services with existing within your existing implementation. And if you're familiar with your components, the way you work with them now, you would use edge delivery services to kind of speed up the content creation for your organization. And so there's like hybrids of what initially we saw as document-based processing right now. And then the other thing that impressed me in the sessions that I attended to was the getting out of the sandbox, like we heard in Adobe Summit from with AI stuff, and the already expanding gamut of like integrations and artificial intelligence plugins that you have available, especially if you are using AEM as a cloud service. And that was something for clients like ourselves who are managed services. It made us want to take advantage of like all those AI features even more. So maybe try to look at fast tracking our onboarding on AEM as a cloud service. So these were the main impressions that I had. I heard from, I'm in the financial industry, so I went to a lot of financial industry sessions. And I heard from like larger entities in the financial industry. It was all about getting their governance and they're setting up their frameworks for using AI. And so everyone is kind of like, I think I went to a session that was co-hosted by IBM and Adobe and Aramark, I believe, and they were saying how now is the time to cement the framework that you have for how you're going to use AI essentially, and bringing all the different teams together and make it a meaningful, creating a meaningful framework of how you're going to take advantage of all the AI features that were discussed during Summit. And so I think my organization is in the same boat. We're trying to create that AI framework, teams working together, exploring what kind of content would be prime candidate for implementing AI. And so I wanted to hear from the rest of you so that I don't monopolize this. And maybe we'll go down to first of all, I wanted to say that Wilson for like an AEM champion that we have here on the call too, had a great session about going into, if you're on-prem or like managed services, going to AEM as a cloud service. I thought his session was incredible. He had really, really great tips and steps to follow if you're onboarding your organization to AEM as a cloud service. And you'll see in the chat, the sessions, the session that Wilson led.
And I did not pay Greg to do that, just for full disclosure.
No, that was definitely. Thank you for jumping in, Wilson. It's a great session. I encourage everyone to go watch this if you didn't attend. So that was one session that I attended. Then, as I mentioned, a lot of AI and speeding up your content delivery and seeing all the features that are available now. I just wanted to open up the floor to any others. I guess I'll start. Traditionally, I start with Rami, and I know that he might have to jump out another call pretty soon. But I wanted to see what he thought overall as an AEM champ and architect. So I'll start with you, Rami, if that's okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but let us know what.
Right, but I had a gut feeling. Well, hey everybody. You know what? I thought of a way to put the entire summit into one word, and honestly, the what came to mind is the word refinement. As much as you would think, or maybe even Adobe wants to show new products, I don't think the summit was about new products. I think it was about two things, and I'll go through both. But one of them is a lot of refinement. So there is stuff that we've seen in the sessions There's also some of us had the chance to go and play around or talk to product folks, people who are working on Adobe products day in and day out. And Noah Mia was asking a lot of questions. And a lot of it is, okay, we have AEM as a cloud service. How can we make it better? How can we do stuff like Fastly? How can we get Fastly or the CDN easier for people to configure? So put away the noise of the sessions, and then they're great and they're fantastic and they're showing specific things, but I'm just trying to get into sort of the mind of Adobe. And a lot of it, like I said, it's just how can we make it better? So you have RDE. How can we have RDE be more useful to developers? I won't give any details or anything else, but just the trend or the train of thought that I've seen is we've launched all these products. So the past little while, if nobody has noticed, Adobe has done this thing where they were mass producing different products. Like we had AEM back in the CQ days, and Adobe got it. They got Target, they got Analytics, and we went on this really long pause, right? We had a set of products. They were robust, they worked, we had clients, life went on. And then probably what, 2 years, 2.5 years ago, we just got this wave, right? Right after AMS, you had AM's cloud service. You had real-time CDP, you had AAP. For the first time, we started seeing Adobe created products, not necessarily something that they've acquired and got into their umbrella, think Workfront, Target, Forms, even like if you remember Lifecycle versus what we have today in Forms. So it feels like, okay, now they're going into phase 2 of this, where it's like, okay, we have all these products. Let's refine them from a development perspective, from an implementation perspective, from an API perspective. And that was a very consistent trend that I've seen. Of course, if you haven't heard it enough times, which is bucket number 2, AI. And I think like everybody else should probably consider this. AI is a tool, but it reminds me of, you invent X-ray, and then we started X-raying everything, right? And then we realized, okay, it's not just pros. There are some cons in there. When lasers became a thing, we invented lightsabers. So we have this trend where we have a new technology and we're unaware of the limit of the technology to just base our entirety on it. It's like everything is AI. What I liked about the sessions that we had in there is each session had a specific bracket of how to use AI. So it wasn't just about Firefly, but how can you use Firefly? I don't care about the tool if I can't use it, right? It's pretty, it's nice, especially for developers and they're going, oh my God, I can do this. Same thing with marketeers. But if you don't use it day to day into something that's relevant to your business, and honestly, out of everything that I talked about right now, this is the one thing that I would think you should take away. If somebody comes in and tells you what's Gen AI, be like, what are you going to use it for, right? There has to be a line in between the product or the technology and how it's relevant to your business. There is one session that I'm going to recommend. A lady with the name of Nina, and I can't remember her last name, and I'm actually going to go in and look for that session. She talked about AI, but in a different way. And I've read a whole bunch of books about, how we always think of how computers can become humans, right? AI. But we've never thought how humans are computers. And it's kind of cool. I've read a couple of books about how we do pattern recognition, memorization. At the end of the day, we are a program. We're a very complicated program, but we are a learning program. You don't know that fire is hot until you touch it if somebody tells you so. And these experiences compile, and same thing with AI. And she took it in a totally different way, where it's like, okay, so let's talk about emphasis and responsibilities of AI and AI development and how we can actually integrate this into your business. And she said something, I can't remember it word for word, but she said, you either embrace, or what it meant is you either embrace AI for your business or you are left behind. And I fully agree with it. And again, going back to the idea of the laser or X-ray, if we didn't have it, there's a big bulk of the medical industry that would have disappeared, right? So it's a good thing to embrace it, but it's also a good thing to understand why you're embracing it. So I'll put the session in the chat. I found it to be really relevant, and it's not product specific, because a lot of, again, it's an Adobe Summit. It talks about the products and how you use it, but it's good every now and then to sit down and take a step back and go, okay, let's put the product aside. What the heck is the concept and how can I use it and how can it make me better?
100%. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's an interesting spin. If anyone finds that session, please feel free to add it to the chat, or if you attended the same session. Anyone else from Champs? Like, I don't know, Wilson, did you want to talk to us a little bit? I mean, you had that ton of useful tips in your session, but overall, like, what did you think and what was your experience? I know you attended a lot of different sessions as well, and different events as well. And plus, I want to mention that Wilson was also a finalist in the Experience Makers Award. So that's a huge opportunity for those who have done like something extraordinary in AEM, in the AEM space, or other Adobe products to be awarded, essentially be recognized by the community. So yeah, Wilson, what do you think?
So first of all, I think I like this event, but one thing is that I would ask Adobe is if we can extend the day to 30 hours during Summit, because there's not a lot of hours to do everything that we plan. You know, Adobe for different product. Oh,
We can hear you now. Oh, we seem to have lost Wilson. He'll get back to us. I agree though. If you are attending for first time, I can't imagine what a chaotic experience it can be, because there are a lot of things that are happening. The one advice or tip, if I could provide to folks who are planning on attending in person, or maybe they're going to attend for a second time, is really take time to think what sessions apply to your organization, or what things like or seems like it's going to apply to your organization, your implementation, and also pace yourself, because it's impossible to do everything in 24 hours. Like Wilson said, we need a lot more time.
Yeah, so I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, that is one thing, but overall, I have to agree with what Greg said. Is it was good, and what Remy said also on the AI. I like many people went there to say, hey, what Adobe is going to bring a new product, and in previous, this was my Summit 5, I think, and it's always, you think about it, would be a lot of sales and stuff, but there was a lot of innovation there, a lot of things that how can we do things better as a community. That was impressive. The one thing in terms of a Firefly integration with Express, and then we went there with a concern about copyright and privacy and styles and guidance. So I heard good things about what is coming in terms of guided models or custom models that you can put guardrails of the type of content that can be created by AI. So this is something that I started having some conversations internally to expedite the process, to start using doing some pilots internally.
Yeah.
And as far as sessions, the one I didn't have time to present to be on many of them. I'm listening to some. They're online, and I recommend everybody to that miss others that go online and see, because most of them, if not all, they are available on demand, and it's worth it to spend time because you're gonna get a lot of details. What Greg mentioned about the Experience Maker Award, if I got the finalist, I would say many of you guys have plenty of good stories, plenty of arguments to be one of the candidates there. So don't hesitate to submit yourself or your company or your team. It was a unique experience, I'm gonna tell you. Robert Solby was there as well, so it was a unique experience that I would recommend everybody to go. And the Champions program, this group of people that we have here, and in separate groups that we have, it's a unique set of individuals that we learn from each other tremendously. And the application process is it's a fairly simple, and we're looking for the best around the globe. So don't miss that opportunity. And I have more to talk about. I'll give other people a chance to.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, thank you for jumping in, Wilson. That's great feedback. Everyone is asking if you need more hats or for your collection back there. I guess yeah, if anyone else wants to jump in from like, and I wanted to also mention a point that Wilson briefly mentioned. If you wanted to do a pilot with Adobe on any of the features in the newly announced AI features that were on display at Summit, feel free to reach out to Robert Solby to schedule that for your organization. I think pilots are going to be like really critical in the next couple of months to see like, what can you do for your organization to take advantage of AI.
So I've got a few things. I hop in just a few minutes for another client
Yeah.
call, but I would like to say kind of more specific. So if there's something that you're really interested in, go to the Adobe booths and talk with those people. They're there to be the experts and to talk with them about your issues, your things, any new product enhancements you're looking for, any ways of working. As champions, we're there to help and support, but you have the experts there as well. And I found that I enjoyed all the sessions. They were extremely informative, and you come back and you're like, okay, what do I do with all this information? But if you're struggling with a specific piece of information or something along those lines, go to and talk to that Adobe person. It is so important that you have the time and you're in front of the expert. That could take you weeks or even months to get in front of them to have a 5-10 minute conversation, and they're more than happy to talk with you. That's what they're there for. So I think as great as the sessions are, going around and speaking with those people is highly important, and to spend time with the rest of those teams. It's very informative, and I feel like everyone I've talked to enjoys the conversations and gets as much, if not more, out of that beyond the sessions.
Yep, solid tip there. Thank you, Autumn. And that's key to know that there's always support in the middle of the expo floor. There's always like an area that you can, as a client, partner, Adobe product enthusiast, you can talk to folks in the peer-to-peer connection bar, like the area that we were at, but also like a lot of other champions, analytics, Marketo, Adobe Experience Cloud was there, like technical support was there. So the middle of the floor, usually in the summit, is hosted by folks who are there to help answer any questions. So thanks for that tip, Autumn. That was
I agree with that. The amount of questions and opportunity I have to share there was amazing. I have a meeting today at 1:30 with a team from FedEx, a part of in Europe, and then again, it's just hey, can we follow up with some conversations? So I'm going to meet them this afternoon just to chat. And there is another telecom company. I work for a telecom company in the US. So there's a telecom company in Brazil that I made a presentation in Portuguese, and then now we're talking about, hey, what are you guys handling with cookieless, right? It's coming cookieless browser. So what are you guys handling? So it's part of the discussion that happened at the booth. All the discussion happened on the presentation, and we are just going to connect, and then we have a meeting. I have 2 meetings today that it was a follow up from Summit, and this is like it's just a good recognition that it was worth of the time to spend and share what we know, and then have this group here, because the people that came to the peer-to-peer booth and then the location, it put this group as a center of attention if people need to ask questions that they may not have from their account representative or from support. So, and then seeing that they went there, came to us, so that's put a lot of value for what we do as an Adobe champion.
Yep.
And I think Brett had his hand up at some point.
Yeah, we wanted to go to Brett, and I wanted to address one of the question that was in the chat. Go ahead, Brett.
I want to hit the question in chat.
Okay. Yeah, just simply like if you are engaged with Adobe in an application for pilot beta program, Robert Solby is the program manager for the AEM Champs advocacy program here. So he'll reach out to you if you want to send him an email, and he can coordinate with Adobe, certainly. So I'm sure there's a formal process, and there are a lot of clients who probably are interested in doing pilots. So there's probably a time schedule there. So Robert can get back to you. And also I wanted to, something that was posted here by Indrasish. He's heard that if we want to integrate AI features into AEM, we should look into extensibility framework that's available as part of the app builder. And if anyone has experience with that, or they can share any experience with that. Yeah, Brett provided the answer there. I mean,
Yeah, real quick on that one. Like, I mean, app builder could still be a way that you integrate, but ultimately you're still going to need to have some code in AEM because you're trying to hook this into the AEM features. Like, at least where we're seeing Gen AI apply, it's largely to assist with somebody doing a job, and a lot of times it's to provide a recommendation, not an end result, because you want some level of vetting. So it's like, hey, somebody's going in to create page properties, they want a description, so click the button to get some Gen AI recommendations, but then still put eyes on it before you say yes, save. So I do think that even if you would use App Builder for some part of that stack, you're still going to want to do some things in AEM, but some of those integrations are pretty straightforward, and they could just be done directly in AEM if you have capable AEM developers.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Brett. Did you have anything else to add from earlier from raising?
I mean, so for Summit in general, just some key, high level feedback items, and I'm not going to go too deep into them unless anybody wants to ask questions about them. But I think a couple things. Number one, there was a lot more buzz this year than last year. It felt like twice as many people there, even though it was only like 10-20% more people. So that was pretty awesome to see the excitement overall, to see people there. Gen AI, it's been talked about a ton. I think my takeaway was this idea of we got to take toys and make them tools, because we're still in the toy stage. And we're starting to see some tools, but even Adobe admitted we're still getting there.
Right.
Another thing, Adobe had roundtables for products for AJO, AEM. I'm not sure if there's others. I know Bounteous was in AJO and AEM Edge Delivery Service. So it's great to see the roundtables at Summit where they're seeking feedback from customers and partners on these new products. I think that's a very good step for Adobe. Exciting. For people that are attending sessions, I always recommend there's two different types. There's the ones put on by Adobe that are visionary and kind of telling you about where the product's going to be. A lot of those things seem like they're real, but they're partially real now. But if you want to be on that bleeding edge and help develop those products, then that's the type of session for you to go to. And then if you're looking for if you got a little bit more of a legacy implementation, or you're just, maybe your company is a little bit less risk taking, I always suggest going to the ones that are customer sessions, because then they're talking about things that they've done. And so to me, there's, the visionary and the practical sessions, and you might be skewed towards one or the other if you're going to sessions. And then last thing that I had was kind of a footnote on Summit because of all the stuff around Gen AI and edge delivery and all that stuff. But I do get excited when there's some up leveling of some existing functionality. And one of the things that came out was Content Hub. We've definitely had mixed reviews on things like Brand Portal being a little bit of an incomplete solution for what people need to share assets effectively, which then leads people to going to Asset Share Commons, which is completely on the other end of the spectrum, where you got to have a dev team kind of build your features and maintain your features or whatever. And I'm really hopeful for what Content Hub brings to the table. I'm hoping it really kind of solves that content collaboration, the asset collaboration with outside entities. So that was, to me, the most exciting thing related to traditional AEM.
Yeah, that's key. Great tips, Brett. All solid. Yeah, the Content Hub, I heard about that too, and maybe we'll dedicate a session in the future, office hour session, on all assets related stuff and generally content related. Is Content Hub available for AMS customers? I don't think so. For managed services. But again, that's one of the things that so a lot of things might be backported from cloud to managed services. The one thing, and one thing Wilson mentioned in his session is that even with like onboarding on AEM as a cloud service, things keep like evolving. Adobe's learning from the process as well, right? So they're always improving and fine tuning the process of onboarding to AEM as a cloud service. I know Joey had his hand raised. Joey is another AEM champion. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to provide my perspective because this is either my 18th or 19th summit.
Oh,
I've
wow.
been going to it since it was Omniture Summit in Salt Lake City when I was a customer of Omniture at the time on behalf of Novell. So I've seen the thing evolve a lot over the years, and kind of driving off of some of the stuff that Brett was talking about is my experience in the past has been I came away from Summit and I thought there was a lot of aspirational stuff. There's a lot of hopes and dreams that are being shared there as though they were already features. And this time I really felt like there was a lot more strategic, practical advice being given and a lot more real world things that I could go home and say, yeah, I can offer this to my customers. So I've spent since I, since 2003 or 4, whichever, I can't remember exactly, which was my first summit. I've been on both sides. I've been a customer and I've been an implementation partner, and I've kind of bounced back and forth several times in that 18-year span. And this is the first time I came away saying I can go home with real practical, like everything I heard, I can go out and I can do something with it today. Whereas in the past, I kind of felt like, oh, some of that, I hope it eventually lands, or it lands, but maybe not quite in the way that was portrayed. And this time I felt like most of the stuff I saw was very real. And so if you didn't have a chance to go see some of the sessions, I recommend going back and looking at the session catalog and saying, what did I miss? Because as Wilson mentioned, there's just not enough time to see it all. Well, now all the sessions are I don't know, don't think they're all live yet, but most of them are live.
Yeah.
And you can go back and say, what did I miss? And look at that and say, okay, for hearing from a guy that's been doing this for a little while now, most of this stuff is pretty practical at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice, Joey. And for someone who's attending so many summits, to hear that a lot of the stuff felt more real, I got the same impression. It was only, like I said, my second in person. So I feel like the advent of AI features coming out of the woodworks now is also going to expedite a lot of the, especially on the content side, a lot of the features that we saw, and a lot more adoption is happening right now. So thanks for that feedback. Anyone else, like any participants, anything that it can be helpful for Robert too to take some information back to Adobe when it comes to Summit, of like what sessions would you like to see, like Robert asked in the chat, or the format of the summit, or what kind of feedback do you have for us? Feel free to jump into the conversation here or provide your feedback in the chat.
So I can add a couple of points. So I wasn't there at the summit in person, but I did review the recordings later on, a few of them at least. Couple of things, and a lot of things are already talked about, so I'm not going to bring those things again, but a couple of other things that I saw which were kind of good were the workfront integration with AEM. So as we're thinking about more content supply chain and like using AI to generate hundreds of different variations of images and whatnot, like how do we then sort of bring it back into like task management and tracking and audit trailing and all that good stuff, right? So I'm happy that Adobe is sort of thinking of connecting their products even more. I probably Workfront and AEM are not like synonymous yet, but I think they are bringing them closer together with building more integrations. So that was exciting for me at least. And then the other thing was, maybe that was not introduced in the summit, but we kind of came to know in the summit, was the bring your own Git. Sort of, we are sort of financial services, so we do sort of have restrictions on where we put our code. So I think we are definitely looking forward to using that.
That's a very important differentiation point for financial services clients and partners who work with clients. That's true, Priyank. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, you know, like a lot of the sessions that I attended too in financial industry space, same interaction, like same feedback. It was about, you know, the privacy, enterprise security factors that were you know, key. And you know, with the advent of like having your porting over your own CDN is like really key. So thank you for that, Priyank. I see Diane also like, wow, it's a T Rowe Price show tonight. Diane is raising her hand.
I try to hop in when I can because I love these sessions.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, so I think for me, it was first time attendee, so it's definitely information overload, but just really like love the conversations. And to someone's point earlier about just getting out there and talking to like Adobe Central Hub, is actually like I think the biggest like takeaway I got, because there were some instances where I was like able to talk to the people that were sitting there with Adobe Workfront, ask them specific questions. And then not only that, just like from the tech side, where we were just kind of having conversations with support about, you know, the working model and how we engage when we have like technical questions or issues that we're coming up to with like an application.
Mhm.
Those have been like super helpful. And also too, it's interesting too, because there was one booth where I did where you build a website in 5 minutes. And if you did it in 5 minutes, you got this cool little badge. And as I was going through the build process, using like the metadata or the SKU coming in from the assets in dynamic media, I brought to their attention some issues that they were missing in the process. And they were like, oh, wow, that was a missed opportunity we didn't think of. So I think like going to those kind of sessions and just playing with the gadgets teaches them something else too, because they're so close to the project. There might be something that they're missing.
Yeah.
Which is like really great, because they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to incorporate this into phase 2 and phase 3, because for me, as like I'm a pure content author, so my mind automatically goes to, okay, well, how's an author going to use this? How's an author going to utilize everything? And then what's it going to look like on the front end for the client?
Absolutely.
So that was like probably the most amazing thing for me. I mean, I hope I get invited to go back next year, because like I have so much more questions that I just really want to like spend a whole day in the middle hub and just like absorb everybody and just like ask them a ton of stuff. But I think for me, I would really love to see more around like the componentry. Also, how do you advance your components? Like, how can an author take a core component and help with the dev partners make it more customized and fit the better needs and brands for an author? Because
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of gap between, you know, like what's out of the box componentry and what does it actually do for an author.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, like, I would love to see more things geared around, like, what does it take for an author to do X, Y, Z? Well, like I sat in the last session on Thursday where one of the AEM champions was demoing how they did their like, she mentioned everything as like a rock star album, which I think the analogy was like really cool. And she started to touch base on what it was like for an author. But I think for it to really hit home and sell a lot more of like what Adobe offers, I think they need to also scale it back a little bit and think about how do we make this more universal, and how do we, you know, really engage all cycles of development.
Yeah. So maybe more hands-on labs,
Most
probably,
definitely.
yeah, for content authors. That's something that, you know, Robert Sobey might want to jot down and like think about for future summits. But yeah, I agree. You know, for those of us who maybe not be aware too, we have Adobe has, since last year, I think they have a new credentialing offered, and you can be an AEM Sites credentialed author which is, I think, the first step in knowing a lot of like the ins and outs of authoring in AEM, traditional AEM. So that's something you want to look at under certifications. If you're visiting the Adobe Experience League, you can take a look at the certifications options there for you. But yeah, that's a good tip, Diane. I think, you know, the workhorse of like day-to-day publishing, content publishing is traditionally the author group. So it would be very useful for them to expand their knowledge and learn more about you know, content authoring during Summit. That's a good tip. There's a question from Sashi about if Universal Editor is available in AMS. Personally, I've heard that it will be backported, but I don't have any idea of any time frame or anything like that. So I don't know what others think. Brett, did you hear anything about that, or have you?
No, I didn't catch it. I also know that I do know that some customers are being you know, Adobe is talking with them more and more about, hey, it's time, we got to get you to cloud service at this point. So I do anticipate that even if Universal Editor is backported, it's becoming less and less of a priority to backport things to AMS. It's just the unfortunate nature of software. It's always moving forward. We've been on cloud service for what, 3 years now? Something like that. So I you know, because I think the other question was Content Hub earlier too, and I'm not sure. It wasn't clear to me whether Content Hub was ready for GA or if that's going to be a couple months out still. So it again wasn't clear to me whether these features were going to be available for all customers or just cloud service customers. But I do think increasingly people are going to have to make that move, and I do know that Adobe is taking a little bit stronger line with some folks that are really on outdated implementations, kind of saying, hey, you've got a year, you've got 2 years to get there. So once that starts happening more and more, I think we'll kind of see the end of backporting. But we're not there yet. They are backporting some things. I don't want to like alarm anybody, but I don't know if some of the most recent stuff, especially when we start talking edge delivery, where it's like, you know, definitely the future stuff. We might see less of that.
I also
one of
did
the
hear
things
that it's going to be backported at this summit. So
one of the things that I heard about AMS, right? So always we go to Summit and we hear everything that, you know, cloud as a service is getting. But one of the things that I heard about AMS was going to get AEM 6.6 is what I heard. So that might have some of these features that we're talking about. So, I mean, but the biggest thing is like it will support Java 17, right? So that might mean a few things. So like if you are on AMS and let's say if you're just doing service pack upgrades, move to Java 17 might mean something. Like it depends on how your applications are coded, but it might mean some additional work.
Better adaptations or front end stuff. That's always like, and that's the impression that I got. Like the one thing that I have on my briefing on the readout post summit here for my organization is that a lot of the features that I saw it's imperative to be on cloud. So you know, you take that information and you kind of gauge, you know, where you're moving forward. We all know that there's also like an overall you know, trend to discuss or to debate whether being on cloud means you know, necessarily you know, being more flexible. I know a lot of folks are you know, jumping ship and they're going back to on-premise or on their own, like not for AEM, but like on using their own like hosted services essentially. But as far as AEM is concerned and taking advantage of the AI features that we saw in Summit, it's kind of you know, a no-brainer to be on the cloud. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And I think obviously I don't have a crystal ball, none of us has it, but next year we're going to see even more use cases and like positive outcomes from what comes out of these pilots with AI and all these integrations and folks on board being onboarded to cloud. We're going to see a lot more of those success stories in the next summit, I think.
Yeah, and I would just say even for like Universal Editor, like I'd be curious like to even if it's backported, are they going to routinely backport all the features? Will it be some subset of features? You know, understand that Universal Editor is still a pretty new product. We're
Yep.
actually using it on one of our projects. There's a lot of developments that are going to still be coming on that particular tool. It's going to be high velocity. And so I think, you know, even if you could get it on managed services, I think, you know, the ideal is going to be being on AEM cloud service to make sure that you're getting as quick updates as possible, because there might even be some things that you run into. It's like, hey, we ran into this feature. Our company needs this to work a certain way. And you're kind of waiting for, because Adobe is actively building these things. Part of why the VIP program is so that they can get the feedback and actually build a feature that's actually needed by a customer. But you don't want to then be caught by a delay of, oh yeah, we did create your feature and we just launched it in 2 months, but you're going to have to wait another 3 months for it to be backported.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, makes sense. Betsy, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, just some feedback around just Adobe in general and also at Summit too. So my organization is on cloud. We are cloud-based, which is good. We do get the updates. Unfortunately, there's sometimes issues with regression testing, and we'll see the same bugs come through every other release. And we have to keep opening tickets and waiting. But the couple things that I would say, like I agree with a lot of the feedback, a lot of the great feedback. But my organization does not use sites. We are invested in assets, and there's a lot of great functionality coming. However, what I find is that a lot of times the sessions are geared towards you have assets and sites, right? And so it's all about that development. We do all website development internally. We have our own platform. So that's a little bit disappointing. And then labs, yeah, it's a great thought, but we had one on Fusion for Workfront, which is not necessarily part of AEM yet, but I'm told that it is coming, and it was a disaster. They were not prepped. They had not run through the materials. They did not make sure that code that they had supplied for people to copy and paste was actually working, and it was just very confusing for everybody that attended. And actually, someone from my organization made a comment, and unfortunately, the product person heard it, and we kind of got drilled for why we didn't appreciate the for the lab. But I do think Adobe or anybody hosting those labs really needs to be prepared and run through that material to be able to get through it in the short amount of time that's available, that you have, you know, people's attention. And then I think the last thing is, which I found a little bit disappointing. I mean, it was exciting to see for assets, a lot of the new functionality coming, the integration and being able to integrate, you know, some of the AI for content generation. But what was lackluster and what just kind of fell to the side and nobody has addressed is the fact that last year they talked about this new UI.
Right.
But that new UI has stalled, and that new UI is not user friendly in my opinion, and you can't do admin functionality from it. So that was a little bit disappointing that they're moving forward so quickly with AI in a new UI that isn't fully baked for all personas or all users that are using tools. So I'm sorry that I'm the Debbie Downer at the bottom of the meeting, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that there were some things that I just kind of left sessions and I was like, I wish this would have been better. I wish there would have been, you know, more baked or more thought out kind of material.
But Betsy, I think that your type of feedback is extremely important for not only Adobe, but for us, you know, and again, none of the champions here, we work for Adobe. And at the end of the day, we are looking to make things better overall from the experience there on the event, the experience that we can share with you guys. And then these groups that we have on office hours, I'm leading the Southeast group as well. And one of the rules is a safe place to say what do you want to say. It's a safe place to share what you want to share. And that type of feedback is extremely important.
Yeah. Yeah. Local chapters, like the one Wilson is leading, they're very important in this feedback process. And, you know, it's not open source stuff. So the only way for, not the only way, but the best way, the most direct way for Adobe to hear from like for product managers to hear from like clients who are using or partners who are using you know, AEM products and features is to through these forums. So that's why we're part of this advocacy program. It works both ways, right? For Adobe, but also for clients. We can reach out to product managers and to Robert here and you know, vent sometimes if we have to, and then we get feedback and we go on from there. We make improvements. So that's key to mention here, and that's why we do these sessions. So, but really appreciate the feedback, Betsy. Abby in the chat said, let's connect. I'm in the same boat, so you might want to reach out to Abby, or Abby reach out to Betsy, to commiserate, I guess, but also to think about like you know, future enhancements and solutions, and kind of keep the conversation going. One thing I wanted to also mention that I forgot earlier is I know for those who are onboarding to cloud, Adobe now has both the BPA, the practice, the process analyzer, and the CAM tools connected into one tool. As before, you had to do the BPA first and the CAM, I think. But now it's one tool. It's all one page. You can see the reports on one page. So that was presented in one session. So I think that makes it easier to onboard and check out code base, network ops, like you know, critical items and everything like that. Rami also had a session, a quick video on like those two tools, and the business process analyzer, is it business or best practice analyzer. So if you wanted to view that video, you would see it in the Experience League site, and I'll get the link and maybe post it here.
Yeah, I just pasted the link. It was really interesting session, the video. Good job,
Yeah.
Remy.
Yep. Definitely a lot more people also this year than the year before. And from what I heard from one of the product folks in Adobe's, that they're expecting even more people, larger attendance next year. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you want to plan ahead of time. But yeah, for me, the more summits you attend, the more of that 360 view of like what's happening there you have. And I feel like by the time you have attended like 2 or 3 of those, every time you go back, you really, I know it's expensive, so you have to plan for it, but even if my organization was not supporting any of that, I would use my own funds to go, because it really is the mecca, so to speak, of like all Adobe related product roadmaps and sessions and what's happening and what's coming too. So
yeah, I have a point to that, because I was going to mention, and I need to drop in a few minutes, but the to that regards, yes, it's not cheap. It takes a week, the whole process, right, to go there, spend a week there, a few days. But what I would recommend, for example, my company is I didn't go last year, and then they said, well, but if you speak at Summit, we will pay, because you're going to represent the company, you're going to speak. So I got selected to be one of the presenters, so that was one reason. But that might be a good argument for people that didn't go for funding or time or whatever, or arguments. So you start putting together some of the projects that you do, some implementation, some success stories. It can be, I mentioned at the beginning, it can be like a cookieless implementation, or it could be headless CMS, or it could be a success story that, hey, we moved to the cloud, here the performance improvement we had, or we start using more, leverage more campaign with analytics, and then we got like a really bump into conversions. You start collecting the data that you can start showing a success case, and then very soon Adobe will start asking for speakers suggestions and themes. And if you can tie a good story with the success numbers, and then you're going to be representing your company. There is no argument for a company to say it's an exposure for the professional, it's exposure for the company. And then if you are an implementation, for example, if you work on a company that do implementation, it's a huge exposure for you. Say, I help my customer to do this.
Yeah.
And then, but if don't wait until I think they start asking for papers or for abstract, I think September, October. Don't wait until August. You start putting together, and it does not necessarily need to be things that you did from January 1st to now. It could be something that you did last year, and then but start collecting good data that you can put together a good abstract to submit to Adobe, and then they will review and they will work. And then the process to work during the preparation is Adobe make it easier for you.
Yeah.
You know, the guidance, the guidelines they're going to provide, the support they'll provide before and during is really good. But start building that compelling case to justify your travel or your time out during the summit, because it's well worth it. And then that's a good thing. Start preparing now. Start thinking of what would be good cases that we can present there.
Yes, that's great. That's great.
I'm already presenting. I'm preparing two, and I have another one that next year I have probably going to be one in Spanish, one in Portuguese, and maybe if Adobe get I'll be one in English. So I'm working on already.
Wow, they're keeping you busy. That's awesome. Like we'd love to see all of those, and I'm sure, sessions in other languages is key too. Kind of like the multi-site manager approach to sessions. That's good. That's awesome. That's good to hear, and good luck with all of those too. We'll be here to support, Wilson, all the champs if you need help. So, and anyone on the call here too as well, know that for these office hours, we do different sessions, right? This is just right after the summit to get, like I said in the beginning, some idea of what you liked, what attendees liked in the summit, what would you like to see in the future. But we do sessions here that have to do with anything AEM, assets, like network, like ops, caching, performance, assets, you name it, managed services versus cloud, all of these things. We're thinking about doing a session on AEM project estimation. So go to the chapter site and register so you can be notified about when these sessions will come on. By the way, next week on the 17th, there's a session, office hours AEM Champ office hour session on how to submit an application to be part of this group, to be an AEM champion. So on the 17th, you can join the session to see what you can do, like how the application process looks like, what does it mean to be an AEM champion and all of that good stuff. So don't miss that session. That's going to be very informative. It's part of a follow-up of strengthening the advocacy and the engagement with Adobe. So don't miss that one. Register for that one for next week.
So to piggyback on what Brett just said in the chat, Adobe loves a good customer speakers, because it's really a validation of, hey, I use the product, I got the benefits, and these are the results of my sales or performance, whatever metrics they use. But I forgot to mention, because companies might say, hey, it's too expensive to go. Just a hint: if you speak at Summit, your Summit entry, the $1,500–$1,600 is free. So they give you your entry for free. So that's another argument that you don't pay for Summit. You pay for travel, but you don't pay for Summit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, we have another almost 28 minutes, but we don't have to use the whole time. But I do want to make sure that you guys are getting what you need out of this session. Like if you have any ideas whatsoever, any impressions from Adobe Summit, feel free to let us know so we can talk about it here and we can relay that to Adobe product management. That's the reason we're doing this session. It's part of us providing that feedback. Not seeing anything in chat necessarily. See you, Wilson. Thank you very much for your feedback. Have a good rest of the day and good luck.
Bye, buddy. See you later.
Bye. So Yeah, and just to mention again, just for these office hours, we will have like something related to probably creating a design system, one session on design system. We are talking about an edge delivery services angle, upcoming session on that, and the AEM project estimation. So the next couple of months are going to be focused on those items. And then we're going to also, like down the road, look at caching and performance, and again, any onboarding topics, managed services versus cloud, on-premise, going to cloud, and all of these things. So stay tuned for these sessions. I just wanted to open it up to AEM champs. If you have any last words or any other kind of feedback that we can provide here. Otherwise, we can give back some time to everyone. I know it's eating away from like some folks' lunchtime here on the East Coast, but yeah, if any of the champs have anything else to add, let me know. Silence. All right, that's good. I think we covered pretty much everything we could have covered from Summit. Looking forward to seeing most of you in other future sessions here at AEM Champions office hours. Be sure to join our next one next week for the AEM Champions application process. And Mary Alice just joined, but she's going to get the recording of all this. But yeah, we would love to see everyone and each one of you at future sessions. Feel free to register on our chapter website. And if you have specific sessions you want us to, or features you want us to cover for AEM, feel free to let us know on the chapter page. And we always have pre-submitted questions like forms that you can pre-submit your questions. So when you join, we always assign a form so you fill it in and we know what kind of things you want to see from us. So feel free to let us know for future sessions. If no one else has any other feedback, I'll give you back some time for the rest of your day. And I just want to thank everyone again for joining us and hope to see you in a future session. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Take care,
Thanks, everybody.